I get this question a lot. Other missionaries get this a lot when they have a successful career and they leave it, or like could have a very successful career and they leave it to go fundraise their salary and be with college students. Like, why?
Well, I believe very strongly in the faith, in its truth, and that the message of evangelization isn't just something that happened 2,000 years ago. And I've thought a lot about past generations and the worlds that they came up in, and I think that for people like my parents, who, thanks be to God that I have the parents that I do, they came into a world that was not so clearly broken in the ways that we see it now, and how everyone is behaving and how everything is. And those signs are obvious enough that I couldn't look away from them. And well, I think that for people like my parents and their generation, they saw their obligation very clearly as Christians to be good members of society and to raise good members of society. But the reality now is that Christian civilization is dead, and it's been dead for a long time, and the cracks weren't as obvious then as they are now, but they are now. And so some people have to be willing to set aside what they would prefer to do what they should do. And I'm not saying that I'm some great hero for being a focused missionary. Truthfully, it was a selfish decision for me to make, because I wanted to do it so badly. And I don't know what anyone else in particular is supposed to do, but I see the need and I have the capacity and the desire to serve the Lord in that way.
I said yes to becoming a focused missionary for a few different reasons, but the one that's coming to my mind right now is I went on a mission trip to Calcutta, India for about a month between my junior and my senior year, and I was dead set on going to PA school, had the grades, had my hours, was moving forward in that direction, and went to Calcutta to really physically heal a lot of people. And I found myself there, and I'm walking the streets of Calcutta, and my heart is breaking as I'm seeing, not to be crass, but just dying people on the streets as I'm walking over to the houses every day, and just recognizing they're longing for love and attention. And I don't know why, in looking at them, I was just thinking of all of my friends, like, on their phones, like, not just glossing over. I'm walking through campus and they're not paying attention to anything, and how much they're longing but just don't have the words to say. Like, I'm dying for a little love. And this particular moment of it was on my birthday, my 21st birthday, and I went to the house of just like badly wounded and injured and dying that Mother Teresa really established there. And they brought in this woman that basically her husband had taken acid and thrown it onto her and over her face. And they wanted someone that wouldn't be freaked out about what was happening so that they could help treat her. So they brought her into my lap, and I'm holding her as they're starting to treat her. And I just thought, this must be the most poor woman I've ever met in my entire life. And then as soon as I look into her eyes, I remembered my friend that I'll call Susie, that I met my freshman year, as she's confessing and telling me in a casual way. I say it's confessing, but she just was casual about saying, I'm going off tonight and I'm hooking up with some guy. I'm like, oh, who's the guy? And she's like, oh, I don't know, I'll just find a guy tonight to hook up with. And I was like, oh, like, do you usually do this? Just trying to ask good questions. And she's like, oh yeah, I've done this a ton. And I was like, you sleep with them? And she's like, oh yeah, I just need to have sex all the time. And I was like, so this guy, like, how many guys have you done this with? And she's like, oh, I don't know. I couldn't even count. I was like, well, how early did you start? She's like, I don't know, when I was 13. And I was like, who got you into this? Who told you, like, that was good? And she's like, oh, well, my parents told me, like, that's how you find love, is, like, go and have sex with a bunch of different guys and you'll find love that way. And as I was looking at this woman, I was thinking of my friend, Susie, and just thinking, I know poorer people than this, because this woman is surrounded by people that are loving her and helping her, and she's experiencing a depth of love that my friend Susie has never experienced. And through this experience and going and doing this radical thing, going to India and giving my life over to these people, my heart was breaking open for the people that didn't know that they needed the love of Jesus Christ. And so through that experience, it was just an invitation from God, like, will you love my people? The gospel today, the 11th week of ordinary time, is him looking at the crowds and having pity for them, and inviting them. The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. And he invites his disciples to go off on mission. That is what struck me on my trip to India, was that very passage. Literally, oh my gosh, like this day, probably, in the ordinary time, like 7 years ago now, it just broke my heart open, and I said, okay, Jesus, I'll follow you.
I said yes because I know that God is real, and I know that Jesus is a real person, and I know that he's desiring relationship with every single person, and I know who he is, and I want everyone else to know who he is, because a life with him is a life of freedom and joy, and he's just the best, and I want that for everyone else, especially college students. That's why I say yes.
Why did I say yes? Because everything else in life just didn't seem to have the same purpose. I didn't come from a Focus campus, actually. Hey! And so I think the Lord gifted me with a great faith and a great zeal for mission of like, I just know that this is true, and I want other people to know that this is true. And I had worked other jobs. I was a hospitality major in college. I did all kinds of internships, and I could do them, and I was good at them. And it was like fun, but there was still something missing. I was like, there's something deeper to my purpose of why I was created, of what I need to do. So when I had found out about Focus and worked with them in college a little bit, I didn't have missionaries though. I was just kind of like, this is it. Like, I just want to live my life telling people about how I love Jesus so that they can love Jesus too. So that's why I said yes for it, because I was like, nothing else in my life will bring me the greatest joy other than being able to like share the joy that I already have.